guys, we pretty much are at this point. Let's give it like 30 more seconds, and I think we're going to start because this is a lot of information. So this information here is, just by a show of hands, how many are just beginning their journey? Oh, wow, you guys are, oh, bless you all. I love you people. I love you people. Second, who's in their moderate level of where they're at right now? Just as many. And then who has been doing this at least 5 years? Okay. So last polled question here is, how sustainable are you on your property? Do you consider yourself to be 5% or less? Okay. 5 to 10%? Who is truly eating all the protein source on their farm? Put your hand down. You don't count. Okay, great. All right, so there are goals to be moved forward with in the life that we live. So as we get these last couple of people trickling, and this is where we're going to go. So here's the bottom line, and we're going to jump into this real quick. This talk is specifically how to be very intentional with the life that you're living, okay? Very intentional, because our end goal is to, number one, be able to consume as much off of our farms as possible. So that would be self-reliant, right? But there are a lot of things that you have to be very community reliant on as well too, right? What happens if your corn harvest fails, or if you turn around and you lost all your feeder pigs due to a bacteria that came through, whatever the case is, you've got to be able to rely somewhere else. Does that make you less self-reliant? The answer is no, because you then become community reliant on the people that are near you that will help compensate through barter and trade for something else that your freezers are stocked at that point, okay? So this talk is going to get you from this point to the next point, okay? The last slide is that you can get a copy of this PowerPoint, but it's going to give you the email address to send it to, all right? So if you guys don't feel like, if you missed something, it's okay. The slide PowerPoint will be available to you, so don't feel like you have to scribble really fast. It's going to be completely okay. All right. Are we ready? Where did he go? Ready? All right. Okay, so the title is Holding the Harvest Year-Round. This includes growing what you have in your garden as well as the meat that you raise. Okay, this, again, very intentional thought process. We have been doing this for 10 years. We're going on our 11th year. I will tell you, where I started 10 years ago to where I'm at right now is not who I was from the very beginning. So all of you guys who raised your hand to the brand newbies on this point of it, you will evolve, you will change, and your mindset for what you're going to grow and you're going to raise is going to shift. And it will shift probably 100 times between your start to 10 years later. And that is completely okay, because your land changes, your thought process on what you're going to consume changes. What do you want to invest in is also going to change as well too. If you know anything about me, you know that I also teach a very business-oriented talk as well too. My business talk is specifically on how to create a profitable homestead. So this talk goes with partnership to that other talk, okay? So when I say things are very intentional, I truly mean it. If you walk into this life haphazardly with, oh, I'm just gonna throw something down here, or I'm gonna do something right here, it doesn't really work. That's where I say it could take you 10 years to get to where you need to be before you're like, okay, I see the big picture, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is how I need to do it. So a little history about it real quick. My brand is A Farm Girl in the Making. Our farm is here in Tennessee in Wayne County, down in Waynesboro. It's called Acorn Creek Farmstead. We have 42 acres down there. We went from less than 2 acres in Washington State. We've been here 2.5 years to 42 acres. We bought a farm that was completely run down and broken. They overgrazed their pastures, so we practice regenerative farming very hard. We run sheep, we run cows. Now I'm gonna really fall because I got water dripping down here. We run sheep, we run cows to actually get into our regenerative farming. In our woods, we actually also run silver pastured hogs. So with that sense, we also know that our land needs to be cleared, our pastures need to be amended, and this is how we're gonna get from point A to point B. We also run pasture-raised chickens on there as well too, and holiday turkeys. Now, I always get asked, how did you do it so fast? How did you go from 0 to all this in 3 years? We also have a 7,000 square foot garden, okay? So how do we do that? And to be honest with you, I had mentors. I'm not even gonna lie, I had mentors. I get to travel with some of the most beautiful people in the world that have lived this life. Joel Salatin, even if he's in here, even Daniel, because I pick on him all the time. So with that said, I had mentors that I was able to learn from before I began my journey. So when I got here, I knew that our food source was corrupt. We only have a Walmart and a Piggly Wiggly. Okay, so I bought a pack of organic chicken, and it was rainbow colored when I opened my pack from Walmart. So our biggest thing is that we cannot continue to eat like this. So we brought in livestock infrastructure, basically, okay? And in that sense of doing that, we knew that we were gonna own our food source a lot faster. Can everybody do that? No. But the point of it is that you've got to plan accordingly. So that's how we're able to do that. I'm also the author of the Farm Girl's Guide to Preserving the Harvest. It is your A to Z in food preservation. It's going to teach you everything that you need to know, how to put it up, your safe guidelines, as well as how you can marry safe guidelines with traditional practices to be able to put that harvest up in full form. And that's what we're going to be talking about today as well, too. So if you need a copy of it, McMurray Hatchery has actually bought my books. If you want to grab it, I think they're selling them for $20. So we can offer that to you guys outside the door here afterwards. So what else? We do own 100% of our meat source: hog, lamb, beef, chicken, turkey, and meat rabbits as well too. So we own all that. So we process, we put in the freezer, and we do own that. We secure that, and like I said, in 2 years. Milk, our dairy cows as well too. By the end of 2025, we will own 100%, 80% of our food source. It's not 100% because we don't have wheat for flour, right? I still buy honey because I can't catch a swarm to save my life. And so we still buy honey. We have maple syrup that we use as well too. And that is the majority of it. And so we do go ahead and we partner. I purchase from Azure Standards. So that's things that I will never fully own, right? But those are also things that we can do without as well too, if we had to. Or if I can catch a swarm. That'll be the best. Okay, so we're gonna talk about living an intentional life. So I'm going to read this quote. You guys can read it, but let me read it out loud to the people who can't see it. In society, growing food yourself has become the most radical of acts. It is truly the most effective protest, one that can and will overturn corporate powers that be. By the process of directly working in harmony with nature, we do the one thing most essential to changing the world. We change ourselves. Okay, if that is not the most empowering thing you ever heard in your whole entire life, you need to read that again. I advocate hard on food freedom. I promised myself I would say this 3 times, so I'm using one of my 3 now. Your government is not doing it for you. If you cannot take ownership in the things that you put into your mouth and how you run your land, then at that point you need to rethink your thought process. Do you comply or do you move forward with doing the things that God has given you? I am also a Christian, so that offends anybody. You're gonna have to bear through that, okay? So, if God has given you these things, the land, the soil, the seeds, the meat to be able to do it, then do it. Nobody has the right to tell you otherwise. So again, food freedom, you should be advocating for it, you should be speaking on it, and you should be living it, truly, all the way through. So let's talk about plan the garden. So these are the things that are gonna get you to where you need to be. Plan the garden. Your garden is an investment, a true investment. Because if not, you're gonna be relying somewhere else on the farmer's market, whatever the case is. But in truth, whether you have a 7,000 square foot garden or a 200 square foot garden, and you're feeding just yourself on a 200 square foot garden, that's great. But if you've got 5 kids, your spouse, and you're taking all your extra scraps over to your hogs or your chickens so there's no waste, that bigger garden space is fine. And it's okay to have a 5,000 square foot garden and only work on 1,000 square foot a year. It is okay, because your garden space will evolve over the years. Your taste in what you're gonna grow, your decision to become very intentional what you're going to put into the soil. Start thinking about what you can keep long-term. I'm jumping ahead of myself, so bear with me. So think about that as you move forward. That garden space is your most intentional space. We're gonna talk about why here in a second. So let's raise livestock as well too. Much like the garden, selecting breeds that will sustain you, raise livestock that serves multiple purposes. So I have 2 dairy cows, right? Love my girls, love them a lot. But my girls also serve a purpose. We do not really drink a lot of milk, okay? We use butter, we use yogurt, we use the whey, okay? But the rest of it goes to feed my hogs and my chickens. So my broiler birds are out on pasture. they get milk. When my holiday turkeys are on pasture, they get milk. When I'm raising feeder pigs for resale, they get the milk. So they get all the surplus. The whey goes directly into my compost bin at that point because I really don't do anything with it. Though I should, but I don't because I just choose not to. But the point of it is that everything that milk cow will give you is essential to your homestead. How many of you guys really own a milk cow? Let's start with that. Own a milk cow. Great, then y'all know that. How many people seek to own a milk cow? Okay, because at some point you know that that's going to provide for you. She is the queen. You are not the queen, women. She is the queen of your homestead. She will feed and nurture you, and you will learn how to manage her, right? Because she could be temperamental. But the point of it is that if you can get there, it's just not about homesteading, and people think that they have to homestead and they have to have a milk cow. No. If you homestead and you have to have a milk cow, it's because you know the purpose that she serves, and you maximize that purpose. She is still a being underneath your care that will provide for you. So yes, if you would like to have a milk cow, great. If you want a mini milk cow, there's someone out there talking about mini milk cows, right? So the point of it is that no, you don't have to have a milk cow to homestead, but if you want to excel in owning your food source, that is a direction that you need to think about going. That is the difference between just buying milk from your local farmer because you're paying top dollar from it, right? And then you're not going to waste it. You're not going to slop your pigs for it, and you're not going to put it in your garden. You're not going to feed your broiler birds to bring in weight a lot faster. So you have to think about that. And then preserving the harvest. How many people can foods? Great. How many people ferment? Oh, this is a good audience. Good. So fermentation, 70% of your immune system runs through your gut. 70% of your immune system runs through your gut. Take that in, okay? If you are not healthy, who owns your health care? The government, right? So the government owns your health care. So either you take care of your health or you're passing it on to your government and they're going to take care of it for you. If you have ever taken a round of antibiotics, it destroys your gut flora, keeping you sicker longer. You have that surface feeling of feeling better, but your gut flora is destroyed. Your doctor or your pediatrician isn't going to tell you, hey, guess what? Go ahead and eat some fermented foods and eat some good fermented beverages because guess what? It's going to heal you faster. Oh, no, he's not going to tell you that. But they'll continue to pump you more with pharmaceuticals at that point, right? So keep that in mind. And you may have to go through a round of antibiotics. Just remember, you've got to heal your gut, and the way to do that is through the art of fermentation. Fermentation was the only way to preserve foods for millions of years. Then canning came into it. Now everybody switched to canning. You guys might not like my next slide, though. All right. So, it's not in my next one. Okay. So let's talk about return of investment. Okay. In this life we live, oh my word, in this life we live, now it's moved. Do you see my face? The answer is no, I'm getting majorly dripped on. Okay, your return of investment will require you to make investments. You cannot haphazardly homestead it's on my glasses, if you choose to, if you choose to move forward with owning your food source. We got to move. Hold on, guys. Let me shift. No, I'm just going to move. This is what happens when you speak first in the morning. All that condensation just does it for you. Have Corey edit this part out, please. Oh, thank you. Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, perfect. So return of investment. As you are buying land, right, you want to buy the ugliest. Who has heard Sean and Beth Daughtry talk to you about this? Do not ever buy that picture-perfect property. It will cost you more money than you're ever going to even imagine. We bought our 42 acres, and it was overgrazed. The pastures were weed invasive. The native grasses hadn't even popped up on it. The barn needed new material completely. There was no fencing at all. So what did we do? We put our return on investment to create and design a space that would be very good for who we are and what we wanted to do with our property. Not somebody else's property, but with our property. So we were able to turn around and say, this is the most beat up farm that we can find in an area that we wanted to live. Now we're gonna make it our own, okay? So with the garden, this is what we did. I put in a seed starting greenhouse, okay? Specifically a seed starting greenhouse. Who's starting seeds inside their house still? Okay, That's a lot of you guys. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, think about next year, start saving your money, and buy a specific seed starting greenhouse that is actually closer to your home. So when you walk outside and you got to take care of that seed starting greenhouse, it's not a hike down somewhere else. You can monitor it. We put in a little space heater that we used in our well house in Washington State. We kept it at 50 degrees at all times, and if the weather dipped, we kicked it up to 60. We had all of our seeds germinate at that point. So a seed starting greenhouse is going to make the difference for where you're at and what you're going to do. Save your pennies. You can buy them at various locations, great price points, but really think about, is this an investment that you really want to own your food source going forward? Then you got to make investments, okay? Then from there, our seed selection. I'm gonna tell you a story, and I'm probably gonna get booed by this, but let's be honest. I bought seeds from Baker's Creek, and then I worked with So Right Seeds, brand new. They're here, by the way. And I did a germination test, okay? Because I'm a tester. I want to know where my investment's going. If I'm going to buy seeds from Baker's Creek, you better believe they better germinate, right? I had a 10% germination rate from Baker's Creek. Who else did? You're nodding your head. You're nodding your head. Back there as well, too. Back there, 2. 5, right there. 5 people total, not you 5. But 10% germination rate. So Right Seeds gave me a 90% germination rate. And to test the theory that maybe I did something wrong, maybe it was my soil mix or whatever the case was, I started sweet onions at the exact same time from So Right Seeds and Baker's Creek. And in truth, I got less than a 5% germination rate at that point. So select your seed companies. I love Baker's Creek. I love the theory behind Baker's Creek. I applaud Baker's Creek, but there's something wrong in the channel right now. Something is wrong. So always have a backup seed company that you're going to use and utilize them well. At a 90% germination rate, I was giving away starts. I ended up selling some, but then I was like, oh, I can't sell them fast enough. So I was giving them away to people in need at that point. Here, come pick up starts from me. Start your garden and things like that. So have a backup plan and utilize them, okay? If you love Baker's Creek, I applaud you. Have that backup plan. Go visit Patty and her son over there. They're right there, So Right Seeds. They have great packages, and they're very inexpensive. All non-GMO, all right? So the next thing I'm gonna tell you is select tools, seed starting tools, and garden tools. So Sean and I argue about this all. Okay, so keeping your seeds and going forward the next time, that's great. That's good. Do it, because that's what we all should be doing. I'm going to tell you I'm lazy. I don't have time to do that yet. But I do keep certain seeds. The one thing that's very important, and this is what I think is missing the boat in regards to seeds, is you should be running a germination test every single year before you use it. That means just starting a small batch, seeing if it germinates from there. If it doesn't, bag it, and then go with new seeds after that. So it can be done. Seed saving is an essential part of our life. I travel a lot right now, so it's very hard for me to do that. But yes, seed saving is an essential part of that aspect, okay? So, I'm sorry. Sean from the Mindful Farmer over there and I will argue, I don't seed block. You know, seed blocking, you use that tool and you seed block. I do not use that. I find it very difficult for me to really sit there and have the patience to utilize that tool. So I went ahead and bought the next best tool from Bootstrap Farmers. There are seed trays that actually aerate your seeds very well. It allows the roots to grow down into a longer section, and then you can pop them out very easily from the bottom with your finger and push them up and direct sow from there. Now, that is an investment. I'm not going to lie. I only buy 5 a year. That's my investment on that. 5 trays a year. So now I'm up. I build my stock up over the years and things like that. But please invest in that. If you have a low germination rate because your soil was bad or your seed was bad, or that the simple fact that you didn't use great trays on that, that is going to hinder your ability to move forward and live a little bit more intentionally. So think about that as you move forward. The other thing that I'm going to tell you that I just found, it's called, it's a seed starting organizer. So, you know, I'm not a very, my friends will laugh, I'm not a very big digital person as I do this. I really dislike social media. So I kind of do it the way I want to do it. I have a picture of my pigs, they're going up, right? Maybe with a little story behind it of how we raised them or why we raised them. But I'm going to tell you this, look up Seed Time. Did I put that up there? Yes, seedtime.com. They simplified your growing process. So yeah, who uses them here? 1, 2, okay. So the testimony on seed time is gonna be this. You plug in your seed packet. It tells you when your last frost date is. Plug in your seed packet, your variety. You can journal all your notes on that. And then from there, it tells you when to sow it directly into the ground. It tells you when your harvest should be and when you should succession plant your next harvest. I hope they're not here, but it's a dumb proof for us way to ensure that we're maximizing our garden space. But the bonus is, especially when I travel, I can print the weekly tasks for the week and leave it for my family. So that is a reminder to you to say, okay, this is what I need to do this week for my garden, and it prints out that task for you. And just so you know, their entry level is free. And that entry level truly teaches you how to utilize the tool. I did go advanced a little bit more because I needed some more stuff out of it from my garden, but that's something that you can utilize after the year or two of using their free program, to be honest with you. So it is worth it. Is it worth it? Absolutely. It's free, first of all. Second of all, test it out, print it out. You can print everything because for our lives, it's all about documentation, right? I print it, I put it in 2024's garden. I have it there for next year. I'll print out next year's and do the same thing. It's kind of like having my own personal farmer's almanac right there for myself. That comes from my farm and my place. So take a look at them. It's free to get in, not even a big deal. Livestock infrastructure first and foremost. Absolutely. Can you imagine trying to bring pigs onto your property? I always find someone that I like to talk to, and it's you today, okay? Can you imagine bringing pigs onto your property and not having the right infrastructure? How quickly do pigs get out because they're bored? Very fast. How hard is it to round up 13 piglets? Ask me how I know. 13 piglets because they found that one little spot that wasn't secured properly in a pasture that's 20 acres. Oh, really hard, okay? So infrastructure, first and foremost, absolutely. People ask me how I hot wire train my hogs. That is essential when you silver pasture. You cannot just slap a pig out there and be like, hey, go to town, come back when I call you to be fed. So we train our hogs to hot wire in our barn. Small space, hot wire in there, they get zapped. When we move them out to silver pasture, we also put in a hard panel, same thing, because it's all new. It's beautiful, they love it, they want to explore everything. So they're in hard panel. From hard panel, we take out the hard panels, and now they're on an aluminum because it's hotter, with a copper ground rod because it zaps harder, right? On solar panel. Yes, I can run pigs on solar panel with a copper ground rod and aluminum. Okay, not braided wire. You're nodding, right? Not braided wire because they will push braided wire. Copper, aluminum wiring, solar panels. I do because my milk cows have always found a way into my silver pasture area, and my beefies do too, that we did do a 3-strand, not for the hogs, because I can truly run them off of a 1-strand. I do the 3-strand so it zaps my cows, so they don't try to get into their feed, okay? Feed options and shelter. If you truly want to feed a non-GMO feed, find that location. If your farm wants to be, or homestead wants to be non-GMO, find that location. I have to travel an hour to pick up non-GMO feed for my livestock. If you want organic, it's a little bit harder. So find your location and settle that fine. And then from there, we're talking about shelter. Do you need shelter? Do you need to build a lean-to? Do you need to build cover? If your beef cows are out in pasture and you don't have a fence line that has beautiful oak trees on that, all of that goes into infrastructure. Shelter, feed, water. Are you hauling water? Do you have hydrants that run into your areas? That is essential as well too. Joe Salatin will flat out tell you, you should never haul water. Never haul water. But the first 2 years we did haul water. We did. So you have to think about that. Where is your simplicity in running the life that you live that's going to make it more intentional than anything else? And then, of course, storing the harvest. This is the biggest beef that I hear from people. When you raise, and people who are raising 100% of their own protein source, we know that we have to have multiple freezers, right? You cannot just slap everything in one freezer and call it good when you're putting up 2 hogs, 120 chickens, and your beef, your lamb, and all that stuff. So think about, number one, what is your backup plan if the power should go out? What is it going to be? That is hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially of food somewhere, right? And so on top of that, because we sell our items off of our farm as well too, we have to protect our investment. So that goes back to return of investment at that point. So you have to have a generator. You're going to have multiple freezers. A deep freezer is going to be your best bet, of course, because it's more efficient, right? But that generator better be able to help you out when a tornado hits. We had one that landed less than 3 miles from our house 2 years ago. So it has to be able to do something. Tree falls on your roof, whatever, the power goes out, whatever the case is. You better have that backup plan and something like that. Then on top of that, cold storage. A lot of Tennessee homes don't have basements, right? So yes, you do. I have a basement. I have a basement and storm shelter. So our storm shelters happens to be where we store our canned goods as well. But we are now, because we know that our intentional living is going to be fierce and strong, we're going to put in a cold storage unit for us as well too. But in the meantime, when Marcy Joe's closed here, I bought their the big refrigerators, those restaurant refrigerators, because I do travel a lot. Justin and the girls can actually harvest everything now and store it in there. So when I get home, I can preserve it at that point. So that's my return on investment. I know that I work by coming here, and I love my job, just so y'all know. I work by coming here and doing this, but my harvest has still got to be done, and it's still got to be put somewhere, because trusting them to put up my food is a little bit hard for me right now. So it's a little control issue. But on top of that, they can store it, and then I can get home and in 3 days put up a week's worth of food. Whether I'm fermenting it, whether I'm canning it, whether I'm getting it prepared for cold storage. Okay? Then from that point on, you want to look at your canning supplies. Please do this in advance. In 2020, when COVID hit, Ball came out with their canning lids for the season. Who bought Ball canning lids? And I'm not knocking Ball, please. When you guys bought Ball canning lids, if you looked on the bottom of their lids, it looks like some kid took a paintbrush and took the wax and just painted it on there. They had lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the simple fact that their lids did not have enough paraffin wax on the bottom of it. No jars were sealing. Yeah. They lost hundreds and thousands of dollars and a lot of complaints because it was shared all over social media. Okay? So now think about when you're doing this. Are you buying lids that are very much in control of sealing when you move forward with it? If you don't believe me, I'm going to challenge you right now. If you didn't stop at 4 jars, make them give you one of their lids and then take your finger, and you tell them you're going to do this, okay, because they're probably going to want to use the same lid. Take your fingernail, push it into the lid. If it sinks into your lid, that will probably have a 90% seal rate at that point. That's how you're going to test. Buy all of your supplies, inventory what you have in your storage space. Then from there, turn around and get your lids ordered. And then from there, think about what you need to replenish. Did you order an extra gasket for your pressure canner? Did you order an extra dial gauge for your pressure canner if you're using a dial gauge canner? There's nothing worse, and ask me how I know, that a dial will die out right in the middle of your canning season and you got nothing and you're running to Ace Hardware to try to pick up on a dial gauge real quick. Be prepared. Every minute in your harvest preparation counts, because then it stops you from doing something else elsewhere, okay? And then think about the additional preserving tools. If you are getting ready to ferment, think about what you need for fermentation. Think about that. And I'm going to challenge you. Fermentation should be always the first way to preserve food. Truly. You cannot afford to not manage your own health. You can't afford it anymore. You cannot. Your life depends on it. Okay? See how good I'm being? I didn't say I hate the government. I only said it once so far. I'm really proud of myself. Are you proud of me? Yeah, see you guys? Okay, grow. And I'm really suppressing my stuff right now. Okay, grow intentional foods. You need to shift your mindset. Your primary focus is to grow foods that will sustain you throughout the year. Sustain you, sustainability, food freedom. What is going to sustain you throughout the year, okay? Your secondary focus is to, I know this is really hard for you guys to see, is to eat in season. Because you can always go out, grab a handful of green beans for supper, right? You can always go out and grab a couple of carrots or a couple of beets and things like that. But what do you do in the wintertime if you're not growing your food already? You gotta prepare yourself for that. You've gotta shift that mindset. You gotta make it work for yourself. Because guess what your forefathers did? They ate sparingly throughout the season, enough to get them through, and their main concern was the winter months. Okay, so think about it like that. So, sorry? Oh, was that outside? Sorry, I apologize. Okay, supplements, supplement with the garden lax by shopping small family farms. You guys, swallow your pride already. Community sustainability. Swallow it. If you can't and I am not saying this is you, if you cannot financially afford it, barter and trade for it. right? You cannot live this life like this anymore. Learn the art. Barter and trade should be, in this lifestyle that we live, our main currency. Barter and trade is your main currency, okay? Next, we talked about selecting the right seed companies and germination rate already. If you notice, these are my favorite pictures that I use on my slides on that one. These are the pigs that are actually getting ready to go to harvest here now. Selecting your livestock based on your property size. It is not necessary to raise everything. If you hate raising pigs because you did it for a year and they kept escaping, stop raising pigs until you fix your infrastructure, okay? Turn around and tell someone, I've got pasture-raised chickens out there. I brought in extra to barter and trade. I'll trade you for a whole hog. Tell me what you're charging for that. And I'm going to tell you what I charge for my chickens, and let's go ahead and swap it out. He may hate raising chickens, right? Justin hates raising chickens, but he does because he knows it's healthier for him to eat, right? So then from there, consider the amount of pasture space available and how much each species will consume during the winter months. We have everything harvested by October. Other than feeding our beefies, which are our beef cows, and additional to feeding our meat rabbits, because we have a breeding stock, we have a breeding pair of pigs. So those are the animals we feed in the winter months. That's it. I don't harvest any later than that. We intentionally breed our cows. Like right now, our cows are getting ready to go to be bred because we want them to have the fresh spring grass, the higher grass as they're in lactation, right? So we keep a minimal herd out on pasture. Hay is expensive, people, and you got to think about that. So I want everything harvested so I can maximize my dollar value and not buy hay. Our farm is not set up to hay. I'm not even going to lie. We will always have to buy hay. So I've got to minimize my costs on that. Why do I want to raise feeder pigs in January? Right? Number one, the weather stinks. Number two, you've got a lot of rain, so you're going to have to move them more often. And number three, they're just going to keep eating. And I don't want to send my pigs to butcher during deer season. That stinks, right? Because you're on this wait list forever, and then you're waiting, and then you're putting more money into feed. Don't do it. Plan accordingly for processing day. Then on top of that, be intentional with your breeding plan and have livestock in the process by winter months and barter for what you don't have. Oh, hold on, guys. Okay. Select crops that store fresh long-term. This is what I mean by select, preserve, and fast. And I'm going to give you some great items on what you're going to look for here, okay? Many grow crops that they are comfortable consuming. If you genuinely seek to consume and harvest year-round, you must plant items that you may have never grown before. Our intention is to eat as fresh as possible throughout the winter months. Garlic. Best storing garlic is going to be your soft neck, but the South really doesn't like soft neck garlic very much. It's very hard for them, right? So that's why so many grow elephant garlic. But there is a list of great garlics that grow in the South. Okay? So look for that list, and it will give you a great variety of garlics that will grow in the South. The best thing about it is that they will store for 6 to 9 months, soft neck garlics will, and then on top of that, they will keep up to, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Hardneck garlics, like elephant garlic, will keep for between 3 to 4 months. So if you like to grow softneck garlics and hardneck garlics, plan to eat them at the appropriate time, and that is completely okay. So then from there, potatoes. Russet potatoes will store best long-term. They can store up to 9 months. So I have a whole area designed to russet potatoes specifically. But we like new potatoes. You know what new potatoes are? The little round potatoes. So as I'm growing them, we will harvest for eating the new potatoes. And then from there, we know that we have a back pile of russets that we can eat throughout the winter months. And then on top of that, I will tell you that we have a container of chieftain potatoes that we slice, we freeze dry, and then I put them in a half-gallon container, vacuum seal it, and I use that for scalloped potatoes throughout the year. So that's how my mind thinks. Russet potatoes, scalloped potatoes later. I'm sorry, chieftains, scalloped potatoes later, russets to eat at a later date when I'm out of potatoes everywhere else because I'm going to eat my new potatoes first. Then I'm going to shift from there. So there's always the mind shift. If I always want to eat, I have to stagger what I'm planting and why I'm planting it. Onions, I order my onions from Dixondale. Okay, Dixondale onions, that's where I get mine from. I do start some from seed, but sometimes when I travel, I have to take an easier route, so I know my limits. So the Patterson onions store well. They will store for 8 to 10 months. Onions can be braided and hung or stored in a burlap bag. We are shifting to storing a lot of our goods because we have such a big yield now that we will hang some for quick pull, and then the rest of it will go into burlap bags for a later date. Okay, older onions, you need to learn. Garlic will get old. Onions will get old. Bring out that dehydrator, dry them, and make powder out of them. Okay? Shift to making powder out of them, and then just go ahead and vacuum seal them after that. So you're thinking ahead. I can't eat this fast enough, so guess what I need to do? It's starting to wilt a little bit. Let's shift to powdering them up at that point. Dehydrate them, dry them, put them in a little coffee grinder, and then you're done, okay? Winter squash. How many of you guys truly eat a lot of winter squash? Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. Winter squash is truly your best protein source as far as produce goes. I mean, like, some people, my kids don't like soup like that. They're like, it's mushy in my mouth, I'm not gonna eat it, but guess what, they are gonna eat it. So you have to think about what is gonna store best long-term for you, okay? The blue Hubbard, you know that ugly big blue squash? That is phenomenal. That you can actually cut, make into soups, turn it around and roast them as well too. So they're very versatile in what you're gonna have. And then the butternut squash, the tromboncino squash, and I probably said that wrong. No, I didn't, okay. So that squash, it grows like a big trumpet. It's like big and it comes down. If you eat it in its green form, it's kind of like zucchini, but on a harder form. But then once it dries and cures, it's like butternut squash. And then on top of that, a lot of farmers will grow it to give to their pigs as a feed supplement going forward, or their chickens as well too. So if you have a grate and you don't eat it all, guess what? It's not going to waste because your hogs will eat it or your pigs will eat it after that. All right, spaghetti squash, dilettante, and then sugar pumpkins will keep for roughly 3 months. So when you can pumpkins, I do can pumpkin, I do can sugar pumpkins, but the only reason why I can sugar pumpkins is because Lola likes to bake with it. So she'll make muffins with it and stuff like that. And it's easier for her to move forward and do that, especially if I want to hand off baking to somebody else. I'm going to make it as simple as possible for my family to do, okay? Then apples. Let's talk apples. Everybody likes to plant apples, but we're probably planting varieties that don't store well long-term. Arkansas Blacks will store very well long-term. Honeycrisp, McIntosh, Granny Smith, Fuji, and Gala are it. The best variety to plant in the South is going to be your Arkansas Black. They handle the weather very, very well. Okay, so you can do one of two things. We do can apple slices. Number one, that's convenience food. So when Joel wrote the foreword for my book, he goes, Ann basically has a grocery store in her house because she has put up convenience foods that she could just open up and eat. Canned soups, canned stews, canned fruit, right? So I know that I can't keep peaches fresh unless I freeze them, so why not can them? So that's what I do. I've created a convenience food pantry. That's what canning is. It's just all convenience food. And then from there, we can make something out of it at that point. Okay, so it can be stored. These apples can be either stored in the refrigerator. We picked apples in September last year, and they are just now starting. I had like 6 left that I'm not gonna lie, got lost in the milk fridge behind some stuff. And so they are now just starting to churn. So if you store them and you have an extra refrigerator and you want to put your carrots and your apples in there, you could do that just fine. Okay, let's talk tomatoes. I'm going to make some people very angry here. In all fairness, every single tomato can be canned. In all fairness, okay? In all fairness. Okay, so, however, not all tomatoes are equal to be canned. Return on investment, right? So yes, can you can slicing tomatoes? Absolutely. But what makes slicing tomatoes more palatable than eating a Roma tomato off the vine? Juicy flavor, right? So that's what it is. So when you try to can, let me get ahead of myself. Okay, so when you try to can tomatoes that are slicing tomatoes, and I do this and I punish myself every single year because there's a Jubilee tomato, it's an orange tomato variety, that makes the best tomato soup with homemade cream from your cows. The best soup you're ever gonna eat, okay? But I know that I could shove that jar with 10 Jubilee tomatoes, and out of a quart-sized jar, I'm only getting this much. The rest is liquid. That is my punishment for something that I absolutely love to have. I've wasted, number one, shelf space. I've wasted a jar, And then on top of that, I have to open up 4 jars to feed my family. So that's a waste of investment for me. I know that, but that's a risk I'm going to take, okay? I do not can any other slicing tomato variety at all. And then from there, I planted, are you ready for this? I am not able to eat tomato products made in America. There is something in the acid that they use to do that offsets my digestive tract. You too? There you go. They do make you too. My people are here today in force. Okay, so with that said, I can buy something that came straight from Italy and eat that. The soil, the water, the air, right? The lack of an acidity booster in it allows me to consume it. But that's not really, because I got to run up to Trader Joe's. That's an hour and a half from my house, kind of thing like that. But Walmart does sell a variety now, just so you guys know. But the point of it is that for your return of investment, you should be planting Roma or paste tomatoes. They're called paste tomatoes, right? They come in 26 million varieties. You can pick whatever one you like the best and plant those. We put up 120 because all of our tomato products come out from that. All of it. We can crush tomatoes, we can stew tomatoes, we can spaghetti sauce, we can chili, and we make salsa. So that's what I put up. Everything for the year comes out of that section right there. So think about that as you're moving forward. Yes, can your favorite slicing tomatoes, but your return of investment is going to be a paste tomato plant, okay? The other thing I'm going to tell you is can basic items. I know that everybody likes to put up jams and jellies, but you do not have to put up 500 jars of jams and jellies. Promise me you're not going to do that, okay? And then from that point there, a paste tomato plant will yield, depending on the variety, anywhere from 15 to 30 pounds. So as you're calculating how much you're going to need to put up for the year, you need to say, okay, I need X amount of tomato plants to be able to accomplish this. But I'm going to plant extra in case something happens to the plants that were already planted. Plan accordingly to exactly what you need to have. And then do a lot more crushed or whole tomatoes or diced tomatoes, because then those are more universal and you can use them at a later date as something else, all right? Determinate varieties will give you the biggest bang for your buck because your harvest is all at once. Indeterminate means that you're harvesting and freezing until you have enough to can. So find varieties that are actually determinate and go from there. If you have a lot of time and a lot of freezer space, then indeterminate is a great way to go. But if you don't have a lot of freezer space and you don't have a lot of time, find determinate varieties. Did I say that right? The way I just said. Okay. So, and then from there, please reserve all your tomatoes to peels from that you peeled your tomatoes from for canning. Dry them, make them into powder. That's going to be your tomato paste. You take a spoonful of it, you add water, you stir it up, and that is your actual tomato paste. So you have nothing that goes to waste on that. I don't think I've bought tomato paste in the last 8 years. Okay, learn how to winterize and winterize root crop. The best carrots to store, these are your seed selections that are going to come, okay? Best carrots to store are Danver and Poleros. The carrots are basically very dense and very thick. They store very well long term. You can store them in sand. You can leave them in Tennessee if you have a little bit of a cover from them. You can actually keep them in the ground in Tennessee as well too, because these winters have been fierce lately. Or you can just harvest them and put them in the fridge if you have a refrigerator unit that can do that. Beets, Detroit Reds are actually the longest storing variety of reds. So if you want to continually eat beets throughout the year, fresh form, Detroit Reds are going to be your best. Store root vegetables in the sand or refrigerator. They can also be left in the ground and harvested as needed. Now, look, I got row gardens. I can't be building a cold frame to cover them, right? But what I can do is mulch heavy. Get some good hay that hasn't been, good straw that hasn't been hayed. Go grab your oak leaves, because we're in Tennessee, oak trees are everywhere. Mulch heavy, and it will keep for you, okay? But you gotta mulch heavy. That is the main tip, okay? Winterized root vegetables will require a good layer of mulch, straw, or wood chips. I do a no-till garden with wood chips. So my row garden is planted in hay, but some of it has wood chips in it, like my tomato plants. And then I do also a raised bed garden, same way with wood chips, okay? Best methods for preserving herbs are gonna be air-dried, dehydrate, freeze-dried, or salted. Now, I started to doing for medicinal purpose ferment with honey. So for example, the best one that I have that my family will actually consume and really enjoy is fermented honey and garlic. So you know all that seed garlic that you didn't start because they were too small? Clean them up, put them in a jar. Do not wash them because the water from that, unless they're dried properly, will not allow the honey to do its job in fermenting it. So as they start to not feel well, they're taking a spoonful of that with the garlic on it and consuming that. That is going to boost their immune system a lot faster. You can also salt your herbs like basil. You can make a basil salt with it as well too, okay? So keep those ideas in mind as you're moving forward. Herbal salts for the season are great. On that, you can either, if you want to put basil into the refrigerator, you can mix it in with your salt. We use Redmond. Sorry, Redmond, if you're standing here right now, I apologize. We do use Redmond, and we use Redmond for a lot of various reasons, but the main reason is because I can cook with Redmonds, I can ferment with Redmonds, and I can can with Redmonds. Remember, your return of investment is one product. You don't need pickling salt. You don't need to go buy anything special for fermentation. It can be used for all three processes, okay? And then herbal salts. I've been making herbal vinegars as well too lately for salad dressings and things like that. So pro tip, some of you guys might not like me for this, do not just shove everything in a jar and call it good. Because if you are not canning based on exactly what you need until the next canning season, the jars itself will no longer be palatable. Your green beans, you may say, my grandkids love green beans this year. I put up 100 jars. Halfway through the season, they're like, we don't like green beans anymore, and we're not going to eat them. Ask me how I know, right here. So then you got to think about how you're going to use these green beans. So if you have extra canned vegetables that your children will not eat anymore, drain out the water, put them on a cookie sheet, freeze them, and then cook with them after that. Add it to your ingredient list after that. That's going to be your best bang for your buck. You don't want to put a canned good into hot soup in the wintertime because it turns into mush, right? Learn how to use extra jams and jellies. Eat your stews for lunch if you have to, if you have an excessive amount, okay? And then from there, you want to inventory. You guys, I can't tell you how many times people have told me that they've lost food in their pantry because they don't know what they have. Every single month, you should be down there checking your lids on your jars, inventorying it, meal planning based on what you have. So for our family, right, we know that every Sunday, I go down to the basement, I get all the meat that I want to cook with, move it to the upstairs fridge, grab all of my canned goods, bring it up to the upstairs fridge, grab everything that I have in cold storage, and move it upstairs. That forces me to use what I have right there. You have to be very intentional with how you prepare your foods in order to truly live a sustainable life. We are the biggest waste country in the world, and even homesteaders and farmers. You gotta learn to control that food source, and that means it starts in your house as well too, okay? Fermentation, we already talked about this. 70% of your immune system runs through your gut. Without properly feeding the gut with pre and probiotics, the body will not be able to keep a healthy body. You guys got to learn. This doesn't mean go and buy a probiotic powder. This means learning how to naturally consume the foods that you grow in order to do this. Every other country in the world still practices fermentation. I love my country. I will protect my country to the bitter end. But I will not say that my government has taught us, does this count if I say it like this? Man. I will not say that my government has our best interests in heart, okay? You own it. Take control of it. Because I cannot tell you enough that if you choose to allow them to continue the path that they're on, you will continue to get sicker. This is your opportunity. Fermentation now should be this year's plan, and it's something as simple as a sauerkraut. Everybody likes sauerkraut, right? You can make it any way you want. Here's a great sauerkraut. Go to my website, look up Hawaiian kraut. If you are new to fermented foods, that's going to be your best kraut to make. It's called the Hawaiian kraut, okay? So on top of that, learn how to make kombucha. Drink milk kefir, which I don't like. I won't make it. So water kefir I do like. I mean, even meat and beer is fermented, but drink that in moderation, okay? And then also try your hand at honey ferments. That'll do that as well, too. Again, I just told you Redmond Mineral Salt is my brand for fermentation, freezing, dehydrating, and freeze-drying. You know how many influencers are pushing that freeze dryer on you? Get a freeze dryer. Do you know how much commission we get off of selling a freeze dryer? A lot of money. Do you know how many times I actually use my freeze dryer? Not enough. Okay? Not enough. You will never see me promote my freeze dryer in an affiliate program at all, because I can't speak for it. Because number one, if you I should ask this before I say it. Who actually has a freeze dryer and uses it? Oh, you people. Now, okay, all your hands were up. Now keep your hands back up, proud people. Okay? How many of you use it truly and regularly as you should? Ooh, a couple hands went down. Okay. So here's the thing about, okay, thank you, you guys. So here's the thing about freeze drying to those that don't have it. So let me educate you. You set your freeze dryer on. If you are not there to package when it is time to package, guess what happens? You have to start your time all over again. You can, okay, all right, fair enough, okay, fair enough. Okay, so let's address that then. Okay, let's address that then. So if you have time to manage that, to do that, then do it. So you're telling me that every time you miss that, you're going to keep going back and keep hitting that?
If you know, you put it in and you guess, like, okay, I have a busy day and it's going to take 48 hours and you're not going to be ready. Set that sucker for another 24. It's not going to ruin the food, and you do it when you want.
Okay. Time management, obviously, is what she's telling you is going to be essential, because eventually you're going to be done going back and continually hitting that button because you missed the last time. Okay? So yes, is a freeze dryer a great tool? I will side with her and anybody else that raised their hand and say yes. It can hold your food anywhere from 10, 15 to 25 years. Truly. A lot of medicinal herbs, because a lot of our herbal places actually freeze dry their herbs at this point in time. Freeze dryers come with a very hefty price tag, without a shadow of a doubt. If the power goes out at that point in time and the grid goes down, your freeze dryer isn't worth crap. Edit that out, please. Okay, so do you see what I'm saying? Do I use my freeze dryer? I do. Do I feel that that is the main primary source of preserving food? The answer is no. Not at all. Not at all, okay? So then we talked about the freeze dryer. I love you, I really do. But we can disagree to agree. Absolutely, okay. So I really do love you. It's fun. Okay, and here's the other thing, and you're probably gonna scroll at me, frown at me on this. Everybody's gotta make their investment back on a freeze dryer, right? So what do they sell? Oh, let me tell you, you're selling dye, red dye. You're selling unnecessary sugars. Oh my gosh, all you people, let's go. Let's argue this point. I got like 8 minutes. That's what I was getting at. Say it loud, louder.
No, we sell dry freeze-dried fruit.
That's right. That is what I would rather hear. That is what I would rather hear. If you're putting candy in a jar and you're living the opposite lifestyle, guys, can't leave anybody behind to make a quick buck. You can't shove junk into their mouth and call yourself good. Do better. I applaud you. I applaud you. And I know whoever sells candy, I love you all still. You got to make your money back. I get it. Okay, so let's go back real quick. Okay, let's go back year round. This is my greenhouse. This is my seed starting greenhouse. These are don't mind the mess on the bottom. This is what we grow our seeds in. These seed trays can hold up to, I think, 72 cells. I can start over 2,500 seeds in my greenhouse. Okay, 2,500 seeds. These are what I sell for starts and what I grow in my garden. Okay, return of investment, sell your starts. Okay, this really nice cheap greenhouse, 12 by 20 through Bootstrapped Farmers is about $600. Okay, great place to start because once you're done with it, sell it. Buy a bigger greenhouse after that. All right, Going fast now because I'm going to get scolded. Okay, raising poultry, and we're going to go through this really quick. And remember, I'm going to give you an email. You can grab a copy of this PowerPoint, okay? Poultry, we put up 150 to 200 birds a year. I only put up 10 whole birds. 10 whole birds. I put up 30 soup birds, which are smaller, the 3-pound ones, because I don't want to put a 5-pound chicken in my soup pot. I don't need that. So we purposely, intentionally butcher our birds early so we can have soup birds, okay? We part 90% of our meat based on our meal plan, meaning that we part our birds, we package them according to how we're going to eat them, and if I know I need chicken breasts, I'm going to go grab 1 pack of chicken breasts. If I want barbecue chicken, I'm going to grab thighs and legs. If I want to make wings, I'm just going to go grab the wings. That is intentional living. You got to get tired of eating whole birds, especially if you're putting 200 to 250 birds in the freezer. Learn how to part your birds. You know that not many Americans know how to part a bird? Scary, right? So we put 3 to 4 hogs in our freezer a year. 75% of it is to ground. And the reason why is because we use a lot more ground meat. And then we do a lot of brats, okay? And then the rest of it is parted up, okay? And then 5 lambs a year is what we consume. So that's what we know. We know we can consume up to 5 lambs a year and basically 1 beef cow a year. Preserving eggs. Okay, we're going to talk about this real quick because everybody goes, I'm heavy in eggs and I can't sell them. Okay, so you're going to freeze them, freeze dry them, or water glass them. Water glassing eggs. Who's done it real fast? Hands up. Okay, remember, water glassing eggs is not designed to keep them for 2 years. Okay? They were not palatable. It thins the shells, and it's not good. Water glassing eggs, if you choose to do that, should be consumed first before you're freeze-dried or you're drying them, okay? You want to consume your water glass eggs first. The longer they sit in the water glass, the shell becomes weak, and then on top of that, the egg actually becomes unpalatable, okay? You don't really want to do that. And then on top of that, people don't like to hear this because they're still backyard flock keepers, is that if you want a continual flow of eggs without a drop in production, you should be culling your flock or selling them as laying hens for $20 to $25 a bird, and then bringing in a new flock from there. People don't want to brood chicks. They will buy your birds for $20 to $25. So keep that in mind and bring in a new flock after that. I will ban it. So basically in Washington State, I had it down to a science. Was that you that said that? Okay. So basically every year there was a new color band on it. I picked on the band that I was going to basically either cull or sell. And then the next group that came in, I banded them a different color. So here, right now, my flocks run wild because of my pasture rotation, right? My regenerative farming, right? So sometimes they come back to the coop and sometimes they don't. So finding them is a little hard, okay? So basically, the harvesting season has ended, which means that the larder, the freezer, and the cold storage have been filled. However, the work does not stop here. Monthly inventory and meat planning are essential to ensuring that the harvest is utilized and appropriately used and that nothing goes to waste. Biggest country in the world of waste. Eliminate it. Even if you can't eat all your leftovers, get a hog, get 2 hogs, put them in the freezer and give them your slop. We have a slop bucket that sits there. It goes out every day. So keep that in mind. Okay, check your jars, remove any bruised or rotted fruit and produce, select meat based on abundance, grocery shop accordingly in your larder, harvest cool weather crops, and trips to the market are for only staples. It's hard to hear and it's overwhelming, but that's the way it is. Remember, yeah.
Is water out of the creek better than the water from the water company?
Yes. Don't run your pigs near it, though. Yeah. So we have a well on our property, and we have aquifers. Basically, we have limestone caverns underneath where our water comes from. And when it rains, once those aquifers fill, we have a waterfall that flows out. I'm giving my water to my neighbor for his pond currently right now. So what I'm doing now is this year we'll be starting to plan out where we're going to put our pond so our cows and our hogs, if we choose to put them that close, can work that area. So yes, city water, and you'll have to ask your city, does it contain fluoride? And it's going to contain chlorine, but does it contain fluoride at that point in time as well too? So check your city water and do that. Yeah. If it is, I'm telling you, the dig for a well right now, the wait list is extremely crazy. Okay. This is the last part, and I know my Victoria team's kind of frustrated with me here, but bear with me. This is a Christ moment, so if you don't want to hear it, you can leave now. We work to make ourselves sustainable, right? We work to feed ourselves because we know that that's what God has instructed us to do. Grow your food, raise your food, feed yourself. But how many of us actually stop and feed your community? How many of you just turn around and go, you know what, he can really get a job and it can be okay? I'm sorry I picked on you on that one again, okay? But the point of it is that hardship is hardship is hardship, okay? This past winter, I drew my line and I stood firm. I watched my county beg for food because their electric bills were $550 because their houses weren't properly insulated. They either paid their electric bill and didn't eat or turned off their electricity to eat. If you are raising your own food, and if you're growing your own food, you need to find that family that is not. And you really need to feed your people. No one in this journey of life is to ever be left behind. There are people that will abuse the system, absolutely. But that is not your call, that is God's call. You don't get to pick. You get to do the right thing. I wasn't even done yet. I had to choke back some tears. I started an organization because I had this dream that homesteaders would work with homesteaders to ensure that they were all being taken care of. So the Farmstead Collective was formed. The Farmstead Collective isn't a new process. It's just a process. Our forefathers worked with other farmers to ensure that you were selling your wares because he was promoting you. You were helping him and she was helping you at the same time. So the Farm Collective does that. We as farmers, and it just so happens to be that we're Proverbs 31 women, that we work with each other to ensure that everybody is selling their stuff, okay? Now, after seeing what happened this last winter, I decided to take a stand. And luckily, with my friends and peers, Carrie, raise your hand, Janelle, we all came to an agreement that it was time to take care of God's people. So we created an organization, nonprofit organization called Harvesting Hope. And honestly, we've been working 24 hours around the clock to do this. Harvesting Hope right now is a Tennessee-based, but as you notice, it's actually Harvesting Hope USA. This module will be shared across the country to allow other individuals how to draw the line and saying, this is what I'm feeding myself with, this is what I have extra, this is where I'm gonna go to send it to feed the other people. Many churches will not accept fresh. They will only accept non-perishable items. So then you're gonna have to come up with that. So I'm gonna cordially invite you to follow this journey in learning how to do this, though a module will be released soon, to follow us on Instagram so you could start this process. It's under Instagram or Facebook under Harvesting Hope USA. And if you are in Tennessee and you would like to join our true farm-to-table supper, grass-fed beef, pasture-raised pork, and pasture-raised chicken, and all the produce that we can grow from our farms, and then supporting farms who believe in us as well too are gonna supplement what we don't have. Please join us. If you follow our journey on social media, you will have the opportunity to come to this supper. Seats are limited because we can't feed the world, but it is a fundraiser because our goal is quarterly to pick something. There's a halfway house in Waynesboro for girls because we are a meth county. And they have followed their parents. That we would love to put a community garden in to give them hope and nurture and teach them how to raise their own food. If you guys are not doing this in your communities, I'm gonna ask you that you stop and think about all those people and what you can. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a little. Okay, I'm almost done now. Okay. So basically, follow us on social media, Harvesting Hope. And please, please, if you're interested in doing this, stay tuned. The module is coming out for you guys. Anything that we do make off of anything that we teach or we offer goes directly back into this nonprofit organization. And like I said, we will be feeding Tennessee. However, this module will take you guys out of Tennessee and learn how to do it in yours, down to how to file a 501c3 easily, what you need to set up and what you need to do, and how you can pull from your farm to feed those families. Again, it's not your job to judge whether these people are worthy or not. It's your job just to feed God's people and to leave no one behind. Boy, I went from being independent to pretty much feeding everybody, didn't I?